So it's been about a year since InZOI came out, and I was one of the people who downloaded it and played it immediately, like the very first day that it came out. From that first day, I was not terribly impressed at all. I mean, it was okay. The characters were the Zois, they were really pretty and really nice to look at, but they just weren't that fun. There wasn't really a lot that you could do with them once you made them. The game itself felt kind of empty, and it was really hard to stay engaged once you had your character made. I've heard a lot of things about improvements that they've been making and a lot of work that they've been putting into updating the game. So I decided to come back about a year later and see how much InZOI has changed and if it's meeting any of the expectations that I had for a new life sim game. And it turns out that there have been a lot of really great updates made to InZOI, and there have been a lot of changes. So you can tell that they are really listening to what the players are saying and what people are wanting out of a life sim these days. So what's better about InZOI? Well, for one thing, there are a lot more interactions and a lot more things that you can do in the game once you've made your characters. One of the things that I really disliked about it in the beginning was that, you'd make these pretty characters and they were really nice to look at, but you couldn't really do anything with them. There wasn't really anything. I mean, even the world was really pretty, but there wasn't much you could do in it besides just look at it. Now there's a lot more things you can do as far as like events around the city, things that you can do as far as like goals for your Zoe, sorry. Even the jobs are much more interactive and fun nowadays. You can really set goals and almost feel like Sims gameplay as far as having your Zoe live their day-to-day life, which wasn't really something that you could do in the beginning because there just weren't enough ways for it to interact with the world. The main problem that I noticed when going back to InZOI, though, was that it still just feels really sterile. A lot of the Zois just don't really meet my personal interests when it comes to making a life sim character. They were still just a little bit too pretty. Even the world that we live in as a Zoe is just a little bit too pretty. There were ways to change it so that the city was a little bit dirty, but it was all very uniform and not really the way that I personally like to make my cities quote unquote dirty. It really is just a slider that you can use to kind of change it. So you can't really go in and personalize and make certain districts are a little bit grittier, or maybe somebody lives in a super dirty apartment, or maybe somebody is living on the street. So their clothes and their skin and their person is just dirty. You can't really make too many of those changes. So the modding community has added quite a few ways that you can kind of try to get there, but it doesn't really quite get there in the right ways. Everybody, even like if you made a grittier character, they're still just a little bit too pretty. And that's totally fine for people who enjoy that kind of gameplay. Like the people who want to do the whole perfect life, perfect, look at how pretty I am kind of thing. That's totally cool if you're into that. But I know myself and plenty of other people just don't really enjoy that. So I felt like there wasn't really as much representation for those of us who do those kinds of characters. Sorry if you can hear my dog squeaking around. I guess she agrees. So a lot of the characters too just didn't really have that much personality. It doesn't have the unpredictability or the weirdness or the wackiness that they have in The Sims. As somebody that comes to life sims as a role player and a writer and just somebody who likes to create stories around people's lives, I really found it lacking the ability to do so because it just didn't have the unpredictability. It was very linear as far as the gameplay goes and as far as what happens in your Zoe's life. It was very much get a job, have a baby, not, oh my goodness, my house is on fire. There were burglars, which, as a simmer, we love our burglars, right? So I will give it that, there was some of that, but it still was kind of like in a very linear, predictable world, if that makes sense. It wasn't the wacky unpredictability that we had in The Sims. And that's one of my favorite things about The Sims, because you never know what's going to happen. And you might have this one life planned out for a sim, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I've had like 3 babies, or oh my gosh, I hate my job and I want to go be an alien overlord, or you know, oh my gosh, there's a vampire here who's madly in love with me. And okay, I guess I won't go be a corporate whatever. I'll just be a vampire mistress, or, all that kind of stuff that really just gave The Sims so much personality. You're just not going to find that in InZOI, unfortunately. And I feel like that's one of the things that's really make or break for me when it comes to InZOI, because life sims aren't just about like meeting goals or, getting to the next checkpoint or going in such a linear order of gameplay. They are about that unpredictability and building those stories around your characters. I mean, that's what gives it life, right? So we really love how pretty the Zois are. And, I will 100% give them credit for that. I would like more like goth or alt or punk or, those kinds of characters, because a lot of them just weren't that at all. And it was really, really hard to build that from what was there, unless you really wanted to go in and mod, which you shouldn't really have to do. That should be represented in the base game, because even in The Sims, we have our weirdos and our goths and all of that, or at least ways to kind of make them. So at the end of the day, is InZOI worth coming back to a year later? Well, I did find myself playing a lot longer than I did originally. I mean, so when it first came out, I installed it and I played for maybe a couple of hours and I was like, yeah, I'm bored. Which, my attention span isn't really the greatest to begin with, but I was really, really looking forward to InZOI. So I was kind of let down when I was just not really that interested in playing it once I'd installed it. I really wanted to like it. And even coming back again, I was ready to be wowed and ready to really kind of come back and be able to say, okay, this is awesome. This is a game that I want to play. But even though I played a little bit longer this time, it really didn't hold my attention that much. It was more engaging and it was more fun and there was more things to do, but not quite enough yet to say that it had really overcome much of that. And for me, it was just a little bit too sterile still. It was just a little bit too pretty and perfect and just not my kind of thing. So it was definitely closer this time to what I'm looking for than it was originally. And I would say it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you really enjoy the, the perfect life simulator, as I guess you would call it. If you're into that kind of gameplay and those kind of stories with your Sims or Zois or whatever you want to call them, then absolutely, I highly recommend checking it out, because it is a really pretty game and a game that is great for that kind of gameplay, I think. But as far as me, I don't think that it will be taking over for me as far as life sims go anytime soon. But I am definitely looking forward to what comes for it in the future. So I hope you found this update helpful, as far as maybe you were thinking about checking out InZOI again, or maybe you were thinking about buying it now, or whatever the reason may be that you decided to check out this video. I hope that it was kind of helpful for you. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them if I can. I have spent a little bit of time just exploring the game and all of the different features and stuff. So I definitely can answer any questions that you might have about it. Or if you have any other life sims to suggest. I know we have Paralives coming up kind of soon, so definitely look forward to checking that one out. Or any others that you have been playing or that you enjoy. I'd love to hear about them. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.